is a presentation of Fox Sports.
We are sports. We are Sun.
Wil Myers debuted in 2013 with the Rays amid much fanfare. And in his first season, Wil lived up to the hype, winning the AL Rookie of the Year honor. After an injury-marred 2014 campaign, Myers was traded in the offseason to San Diego. And now in 2016, Wil has blossomed into an all-star. Tonight, Wil returns to the Trop for the first time as a Padre to face Evan Longoria and the Rays. After a two-city road trip into Toronto against the Blue Jays and New York against the Yankees, the Rays happy to come home. And tonight at Tropicana Field, they will open a 10-game homestand with Wil Myers and the San Diego Padres, the first team in. Hi again, everyone. Welcome to an evening of Rays baseball with Todd Kalas, Dwayne Staats. Great to have you aboard. Brian Anderson has the night off. As the Rays begin this series here against San Diego, a couple of things. Wil Myers off to a great start over in San Diego. He's continued that. We'll hear more about him in a moment. And for the Rays, coming off a big victory over the Yankees, Evan Longoria loves the big stage in New York.
He really does. Longoria is having a monster year, and whenever he goes to New York, he seems to thrive. And that was the case again in this series. As you can see what he did against the Yankees, 7 for 11. Couple of doubles, home runs, 6 runs batted in. We heard earlier this year when he was playing in Colorado what would happen if Evan played half his career there, or half his games there. I wonder what would happen if he played half his games at Yankee Stadium. He has the most hits and RBIs of any visitor in that ballpark. And here's the other guy that was going to be the complement for Evan Longoria prior to the trade, Wil Myers. He already has a 2020 season going, running the bases well, hitting home runs, including a bunch at Petco Park. Tonight he gets to roam the outfield for just the 4th time this year.
Well, this 10-game homestand for the Rays begins with the San Diego Padres as the Rays swing into interleague play again. We'll see and hear more about and from Wil Myers. Rich will have it all when we return.
set for game one of a three-game interleague series. First time in 3 years the Rays play the Padres, which means it's the first time that man, Wil Myers, returns to Tropicana Field, where he got his first pro debut in Major League Baseball. Back inside Tropicana Field, and Wil Myers, as you heard Dwayne and Todd refer to it before the break, having by far the best year of his young Major League career, an all-star with the San Diego Padres. And Wil admits to his words being, quote, young and dumb in the beginning of his career with the Tampa Bay Rays back in 2013, 2014, but still the same, he loved his time in Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I had an awesome time here. I enjoyed every second of it. Obviously 2013 was a special year, being able to win that and also go to the playoffs. My first playoff experience was really, really awesome. 2014 was tough, obviously with the injuries, but I enjoyed my time here. I wish I could have done a lot more here and played here for a longer time, but that's the way the game works. They'll trade anybody. So, but I really enjoyed my time. I had an awesome time. The fans were great, the teammates, the staff. Everybody was great. I'm glad to be back here and hopefully enjoy the series.
Rays look to improve to 8-10 in interleague play this season. They get it started against the Padres after the break. Oh, it's interleague play. It's the Padres, it's the Rays, and there's just about 3 minutes till first pitch. Dwayne and Todd will take you through the game, and we'll see you for the postgame.
Left-hander Drew Smyly heads to the mound to begin this one tonight, opening the homestand and the series against the San Diego Padres. Here is the lineup he will be facing, presented by your Southern Ford dealers. Travis Jankowski is going to lead it off in center field. The former White Sox shortstop will be the DH tonight, Alexi Ramirez, and Wil Myers hits third. Solarte, Youngurvis Solarte in the cleanup spot. Ryan Schimpf is at second. Christian Bethencourt is in left field. Derek Norris, the veteran catcher, will hit seventh. Brett Wallace is at first base. Adam Rosales, the shortstop, hits ninth.
And they will be facing Drew Smyly, who has been really good in his last 4 starts. He has really implemented the curveball and the cutter with more effect in his last 4. And as you can see, making his 23rd start of the year, 4-11 with a 5.04 ERA. Drew Smyly facing the San Diego Padres for the first time.
Smyly coming off the 6th-inning outing against the Blue Jays on Tuesday. And here we go with Jankowski, the center fielder. And the first pitch of this game is a fastball upstairs. We are underway. Underway right on time at 7:10. Jankowski hitting .254 for the year. Against lefties, it has been another story. He's just 4 for 42 against left-handed pitching. And a little soft popper on the infield caught by Logan Forsythe. Pops up that fastball.
Take a look at the Rays defense, brought to you by Golden Diamond Source. In the outfield from left to right, Corey Dickerson, Kevin Kiermaier, and for the first time this season, Nick Franklin in right field. Evan Longoria and Matt Duffy, the Long Beach State combo on the left side. Logan Forsythe playing against his former team, and Brad Miller at first base. Bobby Wilson behind the plate.
Here's Alexei Ramirez. He's hitting .238 in a San Diego Padre uniform. And he has more at-bats, as you might expect, against Smyly than anybody else in this National League team lineup. Coming over from the American League, where Ramirez was 3 for 10 against Drew. A ball, no strikes, the count. There's a strike. Andy Green, just 39 years old, the manager of this San Diego Padre club. Long one to left. Dickerson's going to turn around and watch that one sail out. And Ramirez, with his 5th home run of the year, will put San Diego out in front. Hit the off-speed pitch.
You mentioned Ramirez, of all these Padres, has seen Drew Smyly more than anybody else if you combine the rest of the team's at bats. And that time took a pitch that was kind of down in the zone and sent it over the wall in left field. Drew's the kind of guy that I think it's advantage Drew if you haven't seen him before. Alexei's had a chance to see him for 10 previous at bats and hit the ball a long way in that pitch.
Will Myers, a ball, no strikes. The Padres are 6th in the National League in home runs. That's 139 home runs. Of course, this is a different looking team than the one they started the year with. There's been a combination of trades and injuries, putting a different look on this team. 2-1 the count. And through it all, Will Myers has had a great year in San Diego. Big cut, a foul ball right back, 2-2.
You think about all those additions they made during the winter meetings a couple of off seasons ago when the winter meetings were in San Diego, and of all those guys that were acquired, almost all of them have been moved with the exception of Will Myers. So they have found at least one piece they want to build around going forward.
And a cut and a miss. Myers missed the fastball. Out number 2. First strikeout for Smyly.
It's a fastball on the outer half of the plate, and Will Myers just a little bit underneath it. You know this is a big night for Will. He is out here his first day back, former Ray, and playing the outfield, which he hasn't done much of. He was pretty amped up before the game.
Solarte up here, taking that pitch for a strike. Oh, 2. Well, here's a look at some of the veterans who have departed. And a lot of money, a lot of contract there, and some talent as well. And James Shields leading that list of departees.
Lot of openings in the starting rotation for the Padres in 2017. They're going to a 6-man rotation right now, giving a lot of these young guys a chance to A, keep their innings down, but also see a number of arms.
1-2 pitch fouled right back. That's going to be out of play. Ryan Schimpf is on deck. Well, what that means, some players that may not be household names in a good part of the country are getting opportunities. And some of them have been in other organizations and putting up some pretty decent numbers without getting a chance to play in the big leagues. They've come over to San Diego and they're getting that opportunity there.
Both these teams are in similar modes here for the final 45, 50 games of the year, trying to win as many games as possible, but also getting a head start on 2017.
This one headed to short. Duffy with the pickup and the throw to first, dug out nicely by Miller. A run on the home run by Ramirez. Rays coming in to hit, down by a run. Home run in the top half of the inning to give San Diego the lead. Take a quick look at the starting lineup for the Rays, presented by your Southern Ford dealers. Logan Forsythe, Kevin Kiermaier, and Evan Longoria, the top three. Brad Miller and Matt Duffy, 4 and 5, and Logan Morrison just off the DL, the DH. Nick Franklin in right, Corey Dickerson in left, and Bobby Wilson does the catching and hits ninth.
They will face the 23-year-old Luis Perdomo, a Rule 5 pick who's getting a chance in the starting rotation here. Sinker, slider, changeup guy.
And the first pitch is in there. A strike call to Logan Forsythe. Perdomo out of the Dominican Republic. Two-strike count.
That's that two-seamer that he features. It rides in and down to right-handers. When he's on, he'll get a lot of ground balls. He's pretty much shelved the four-seam fastball. It's all two-seam sinkers, and then that slider and changeup.
Thrown into the dirt. It's 1-2. And there's an issue sometimes to determine whether that's a slider or a curveball.
That's right.
In fact, the Padres really aren't of a mind to call it either. 2-2 now, missed with the fastball.
He does throw it at different speeds, the slider or the curve, and they call it basically just a breaking pitch.
Well, why not? It's got some break to it.
There's that two-seamer. You can really see the run in on righties from the center field camera there. It really has a lot of good movement.
Yeah, this is a great shot here, Todd.
I mean, that's a lot more movement than you normally see on a two-seam fastball. It almost has a, nobody throws a screwball anymore hardly, but it almost has that screwball action where it really tails into righties and away from lefties, and he'll throw it to both.
Quick right there on the fastball away. That one in the mid-90s. One gone.
Take a look at the Padres defensively, brought to you by Golden Diamond Source. Some guys in unfamiliar positions. Christian Bethancourt, normally a catcher, making his third start in the outfield. Travis Jankowski can really go get him in center field. Will Meyer has not played a lot of outfield. He's been mostly the first baseman. Got Hervis Solarte at third. Adam Rosales making his third start short. Ryan Schimpf, Brett Wallace, and Derek Norris.
There's a base hit shot right back through the middle. Kiermaier makes an aggressive turn at first, hangs on there, got a first pitch fastball and hit it on a line into center.
That was hit hard enough that Kiermaier, even with the wide turn, did not have a chance to get to second base. But just in case Travis Jankowski forgot about the scouting report, Will Myers was right there next to him to remind him, always charge a baseball against Kevin Kiermaier because you never know if he's going to go to second base. Myers has seen that enough.
Now Evan Longoria. Pitch in. Evan with 26 home runs, tied for 9th in the American League in home runs. 9th in slugging percentage as well. There goes the runner. The pitch is a strike. The throw, safe. Kiermaier picks up his 11th steal in head first. He's 11 of 13 now.
That 2 spot is treating Kiermaier well. He's doing all the little things right. You can see right there, straight steal, never looks back, and he goes in head first just ahead of the throw, and it was a solid throw from Derek Norris.
So a man in scoring position with a 1-1 count to Evan Longoria. It's inside. See Norris receive that pitch. A lot of action back there for a catcher as well as the hitter.
You just don't see that much. You don't see a catcher struggle with a 2-seam fastball, and that has so much life to it. Norris thought he almost missed it.
2-2. That stolen base for Kiermaier. As we mentioned, his 11th. Opposing base runners have 10 steals with Perdomo on the hill. There's 1 pickoff, no straight caught stealings. Evan chops it foul.
Those shin guards are going to come into play today because he will get you to pound the ball into the ground and into your foot or your ankle. And fortunately, Longoria is one of those guys that wears the protective gear on the left foot.
Well, that's one of the things that they really love about him. His ground ball rate is over 59%. And you can see with all that life he has down on that 2-sinker. It's a matter of harnessing that. Now the count is full.
Good non-chase there by Evan. First time you saw the slider in a 2-2 count where you have to protect. Started his swing, but then recognized it in time.
Ground ball, that's going to go through the hole. Kiermaier will hit third and stop there. He hesitated to make sure the ball was going to go through. And then just reading Kiermaier, that ball not hit overly hard, and as Bethancourt had to come in to get it. For a moment, you thought, looking at him, that he was thinking about pushing the envelope, but he stops at third.
Perdomo got the ground ball he wanted, and you can see why Kiermaier had to hold up, because both the shortstop Rosales and the third baseman Solarte are playing so close to each other that there really was not much room for that ground ball to go through the 5-6 hole, but it did. And Kiermaier at third.
2 hits with 1 out, first and third for Brad Miller. He fouls it back. That was the fastball up. And a big cut. Strike 1. Our Buick GMC big matchup. You see the list. Home run leaders since the middle of June the 17th. And Miller has 16 behind Brian Dozier's 19. Fastball again, fouled back. So Perdomo has challenged Miller on the first 2 pitches with that high octane fastball up.
And then when he gets ahead of the count 0-2, Miller has not seen the slider yet. And he likes to throw that slider ahead of the count, but Brad's had 2 pretty good hacks at the high fastball.
Oh, and he's hit on the foot by that pitch. Well, he's trying to come in with a breaking ball. And he hits Miller on the foot to load the bases.
And this is again a young pitcher. You see the slider, the breaking ball, I guess we'll call it today, because he's in between the slider and curve, and he bounces it off Miller's foot. You don't have to throw a perfect slider 0-2. This is part of a learning curve for a kid who's never pitched above the Class A level. You want to throw it enticing enough so the guy thinks about taking a swing, but that was never a strike. And Miller ends up getting hit by a pitch.
Well, here's Matt Duffy making his debut at Tropicana Field in a Rays uniform. Bounces it foul. Matt 4 for 13 since coming to the Rays and coming off the DL. His combined numbers on the year, 256. Single, a stolen base, another base hit, and a hit batter. With 1 out, the Rays have them loaded. Hot shot. Oh, that one just foul and just missed Kiermaier. He turned on the fastball, hit it hard, and boy, talk about Kiermaier being quick. He better be.
Yeah, that's 0 reaction time right there. Kiermaier able to skip over it. That almost clocked him right on the knee.
Duffy behind in the count. Takes it down. 2-2.
It's our changeup. He's not thrown many of those, but trying to get that ground ball. He's been 2-seam fastball the first 3 pitches, then try to get that changeup just below the zone.
And a cut and a miss. Comes back with a fastball and strikes out Duffy.
He was looking for 1 of 2 results. Was Perdomo, either a strikeout or a ground ball for the double play, and after the changeup, back with a fastball and Duffy on top of that.
So here's Logan Morrison back off the DL. Morrison likely to see most of his time in that DH role back from the forearm strain. That one down around his feet, and I think it hit him. Down the line, Kiermaier anyway, but that's a hit batter, and the Rays are going to get a run. Well, Kiermaier not taking any chances in terms of scoring. He was going to score whether that's a hit batter or just a pitch that gets away. But you can see right there, it hits Logan Morrison, and the Rays have a run.
How about that? Right off the DL, first plate appearance, first pitch. And Perdomo has been yanking some of those pitches into the left-handed hitters. And he does that again, and he has hit the last two lefties he has faced, Miller and Logan Morrison.
Here's Nick Franklin. Takes a pitch down. Nick coming off a big day yesterday in New York. 281 overall on the year. He had a couple of doubles and a 3-run home run yesterday. Darren Balsley, the pitching coach, heads to the mound to spend some time with Perdomo. Now, he's been a fixture as the pitching coach in San Diego. He's been there, I think this is his 13th full year there.
Managerial shifts, and he continues to be the guy that runs the pitching staff. A couple of young managers in this series, huh?
Yeah, that's right. Kevin Cash and Andy Green. Green, the former infielder, spent some big league time with Arizona and the New York Mets. And a strike on the inside corner. Fastball. Inside. 2-1. Here's part of the big day yesterday for Nick Franklin.
Bullet to right field for Franklin. Had 3 hits. That 3-run shot to right.
Came in the 7th, his 3rd home run of the year. And now it's 3-1. Another miss.
Well, his command has been an issue his last 3 starts. Perdomo has walked a total of 9 in those 3 starts, and today he's already hit a couple of batters and now in danger of walking in a run.
And a chopper down to first, grabbed by Wallace, who steps on the bag. So the Rays settle for a run. They tie this game at the end of 1, tied at 1. Rays baseball on Fox Sports Sun, brought to you by Jeep. the official vehicles of summer, celebrating 75 summers of living 4x4 ever. And by your local Toyota dealers. Let's go places. Tied 1-1 as we go to the second. Drew Smyly's first pitch to Ryan Schimpf is a strike. 12 home runs on the year. He pulls it foul outside of first. All of those home runs for Schimpf against right-handed pitching, with the exception of one. And he is out on 3 pitches. The fastball up got him to chase that one just a little bit out of the zone.
We mentioned Drew Smyly can be tough, especially if you're facing him for the first time. 6 of these 9 Padres have not seen him before. And that fastball with that extra life, high release point, a lot of times you'll see guys swing underneath it, as Schimpf did there.
Christian Bethancourt hitting .242. Fouls it right back into Bobby Wilson. Bethancourt, also a catcher, and spends most of his time behind the plate, but in left field tonight. Back into center field. Kiermaier is right there and makes the catch. May have been the cutter there.
Cutter's the pitch that's been more in play for him lately. He used to throw, still will over the course of the game, more curveballs and cutters, but during the last 4 starts they have been equally used, and the changeup has pretty much been a non-factor during this good run.
So 2 up and 2 down. Here's Derek Norris. Well, quick outs. Fastball up and away. Norris hitting only .189, but has 12 home runs. Missed the fastball there. Two.
Drew's in a really good rhythm too. He's getting the sign from Bobby Wilson going. Bobby's firing the pitch back to him. Those guys are in sync early on.
Two. No chase there on that fastball, well up. Drew facing the Padres for the first time ever here tonight. Too high again. Too high to chase. The count is full. He'll be backing out of play. Brett Wallace is on deck. Outside, and there's the first walk. Take a look at how good Drew Smyly has been. The Toyota keys to success over his last 4 starts, and that's the Drew Smyly the Rays had come to expect.
All quality starts, really where he was at the beginning of the year. Then he went through that rough stretch, and he was not pitching well by his own admission. But he had a lot of bad breaks during that stretch too, and lately he's been more efficient with those secondary pitches that has allowed the fastball to live a little better.
Brett Wallace breaks his bat, rolls it to the right side, and the little toss from Forsythe to Miller. Walk and a man left. 2 an inning and a half, tied at 1. Rays won. Rays second coming. And a reminder, tomorrow is $2 Kids Ticket Tuesday, presented by Morgan Auto Group. Rays and the Padres again in Game 2, and all kids 14 and under get $2 tickets with the purchase of a full-price paid adult ticket. Call 888-FAN-RAYS or visit raysbaseball.com/specials. Rays facing Luis Perdomo, young right-hander out of the Dominican Republic. The bases loaded in the first against him in a 29-pitch first, 16 strikes. First pitch is a ball to Corey Dickerson to begin the Rays second. Dickerson snapped an 0 for 17 yesterday with a fourth inning 3-run home run. That one will slice out of play. Bethancourt chasing over there, but no chance to make a play on that one. Bobby Wilson will be next, and then the top of the order, Logan Forsythe. Two and one.
They shipped Corey Dickerson to the Padres like a lot of teams, but with this guy's action, Perdomo, if he gets one of those sinkers on the outer half, he could just easily hit one on the ground to the left side for a hit.
Pretty well hit the opposite way. Bethancourt will go back, and that's off the top of the wall. Dickerson will dig for second and gets in there ahead of the throw. 21st double of the year for Corey Dickerson, and just like that, the Rays have another scoring opportunity.
Wayne, he has been working so hard lately and not getting the results, with the exception of the home run at Yankee Stadium. But here he is taking that two-seam fastball that's tailing away from him, and he doesn't try and pull it. He goes with it, and he drives it to left field. That's where his home run was at Yankee Stadium, and that ball did not come far from another home run here at the Trop.
Yeah, that's great to see for Dickerson, because he really has been in a situation where he's tried to pull almost every pitch. And you can see on the year he's actually hit more to left, more base hits to left than to right. Ground ball third. Solarte makes sure Dickerson stays put at second and throws out Bobby Wilson. So with one out and a man at second, top of the order coming up, and we'll check in with Rich.
Thanks, Dwayne. Not to be lost in all the Will Myers returning to Tropicana Field hoopla, it's easy to forget that Logan Forsythe is also facing his former teammates. Came over a couple seasons ago in that off-season deal, and now he's really blossomed into one of the stars of this Tampa Bay Rays team. I talked to him earlier about facing the Padres. He said he'll get all his hellos to all the former teammates and people in management with the Padres organization who are here. Got it done early and out of the way so he could focus on baseball. Guys.
Yeah, and the other thing, thank you, Rich. The other thing about that, you know, the nature of this game, a lot of guys who were on that team when he was over there aren't there anymore. I mean, they've been very active in a couple of different movements with that team, adding some veterans and then making some deals to unload some veterans. 1-0 the count to Logan right now. Well hit back into left center field. That is tagged and is out of here. Wow. What a shot by Logan Forsythe to give the Rays a 3-1 lead. Dickerson scores in front of Logan on his 15th home run of the year. That had that great sound to it, and you can see the Padre outfielders turning, taking a couple of steps and watching it.
This ball is crushed. Logan doesn't hit many home runs further than this. This is that two-seam fastball riding in, and Logan so quick. This was off the railing of the lower level out there, the Duckies level, the Duckies party area, and into center field. That was absolutely crushed by Logan.
Kiermaier trying to bunt that first pitch. Well, it sounded great. And then you saw the reaction of Jankowski and Bethancourt out there. They had nowhere to go, only to watch that one. Strong, quick hands by Logan Forsythe. Ground ball grabbed by Shemp. Perdomo's going to have to cover. Safe the call at first. He was looking for the bag, and with Kiermaier going down the line, no time to spare if you're a defender, and there's the base hit.
Perdomo was actually ahead of Kiermaier in the race to the bag, and then he slows down and stops for some reason. Right now he's ahead of him. Now he slows down and stops. And if he just keeps going, I mean, Kiermaier absolutely puts pressure on any defense. But Perdomo's ahead of him, and for some reason, as he got closer to the bag, he slowed his pace down and cost himself an out.
Yeah, and I think he wasn't quite aware of where he was in relation to the bag. He started to think about that search for the bag at first, and no time at all to do that with most runners, and certainly not with Kiermaier. Move to first, and Kiermaier back in. Let's take another look at that.
All right, watch the pitcher. Right now he's ahead in the race, and now he starts to stagger his steps, and no chance. You've got to keep that momentum going, or else Kiermaier is going to be safe.
Inside to Longoria. Haven't had a base hit his first time. Kiermaier back in at first. There goes Kiermaier. Good jump. And the throw not in time. Another steal. Kiermaier 2 for 2 tonight in the steal department. 2 for 2 at the plate. 12 of 14 now for Kiermaier.
Watch the jump. You called it, Dwayne. Really good jump on Perdomo. And you got to love Kiermaier's aggressiveness. You've got to love the way he's playing the game. He always plays it hard, but the way he's doing the little things since moving to that 2 spot in the lineup, he has been a real catalyst up there since moving up for Kevin Cash.
And now ball 3 inside. 3-0. And Kiermaier getting it done early in the count too, not waiting around over there. Confident that he can get a jump on Perdomo. It's 11 steals without a caught stealing against Perdomo. And now he walks Longoria on 4 pitches.
All 4 were in the same region too, trying to get in on the hands of Evan. None of them found the plate. Perdomo has struggled with his command in this game. And Logan Forsythe made him pay for a 2-seamer on the inner half earlier in this inning.
Brad Miller hit by a pitch his first time. Takes a strike. Fouled back, 0-2. Perdomo originally signed by the Cardinals out of the Dominican Republic, and then was a Rule 5 pick by Colorado, and they made an arrangement, a deal the Padres did to acquire Perdomo after he was picked in the Rule 5 draft. A ball, 2 strikes. And you can see why they would like his arm, but it's a matter of getting things under command now. And so tonight, his 28th appearance, his 13th start. And Miller is out on strikes. Breaking ball got him.
Threw him the breaking ball on 0-2 and doubled it up on 1-2. Miller did not chase on the 0-2, but on the 1-2 he does. You can see what you're talking about there, Dwayne. That pitch has good movement, good life to it. We've already talked about how that sinker really can dive in on the hands of righties. So his stuff looks like it could play, but right now his command is not allowed it to in this game.
Matt Duffy, the hitter. There's a strike.
And the honest truth is, I mean, when Perdomo was acquired, they thought, let's see what we have. Maybe a bullpen arm. If it doesn't work out, we offer him back. But things have changed where the Padres realized they weren't going to contend, and now he's gotten a shot to prove himself to see if he's a part of this rotation going forward.
Duffy go. On the appeal, he did. That's Jim Reynolds down at first, putting Matt Duffy down on the count.
Another look from the side, just enough to get the call from Jim Reynolds.
Into the dirt, blocked by Norris.
There's that wipeout slider at 0-2, and it hurt him before when he hit Brad Miller with an 0-2 slider. Sometimes you don't need the wipeout slider at 0-2. The hitter's already defensive enough. You have to at least make it enticing where he thinks he needs to swing, but a couple of those out of the hand have been non-competitive pitches.
Very wide, 2-2. Rays have taken the lead on the 2-run home run by Logan Forsythe. Forsythe, part of the offense yesterday in the 12-3 win over the Yankees. Hitting his 14th home run yesterday, number 15 tonight. Fly ball lifted into short right. Will Myers is there to make the catch. So the Rays score 2 on the home run by Logan Forsythe. They lead 2, and at the end of 2, they lead by 2, 3-1. Run, giving the Rays the lead. We move on to the third. Adam Rosales, the shortstop for San Diego, leads off. Swings and lifts a fly ball into center. Kevin Kiermaier right there for it. One pitch and one out. We'll swing back around to the top of the lineup. Travis Jankowski.
Number 16.
Jankowski out of Lancaster, Pennsylvania. He tries to bunt right back into the top of the screen. Foul ball, strike one. Strike on the corner. C.B. Buckner seemed to think about it for a moment and then decided it was a strike. Popped up back a third. Evan Longoria into foul ground makes the catch. 2 quick outs. Base is empty, and that will bring Alexi Ramirez to the plate. He hit the home run in the first inning that gave San Diego a brief 1-0 lead. Rays tied it in the bottom of the first and grabbed the lead in the second. It stayed wide. Home run for Ramirez, his 5th of the year. We took another look at that. It appeared to be a fastball. A little chopper foul up the right side. Here's a look at that home run.
Wasn't the worst pitch. It was kind of down on the outside half of the plate, but Ramirez, who doesn't DH a whole lot, hit that ball over the wall and left.
Into center, straight in comes Kiermaier. Out goes Forsythe, and Forsythe makes the catch to retire the side. Bottom of the third coming, 3-1 Rays. Hey, there are no limits to the wardrobe possibilities with the Rays Infinity Scarf presented by Geico. Fans get the Infinity Scarf while supplies last when the Rays take on the Rangers. That will be this Saturday. Call 888-FAN-RAYS or visit RaysBaseball.com. Call now. Rays up. Logan Morrison to lead off. Logan hit by a pitch. His first time up there. That drove in a run. One and one. Morrison, Franklin, and then Dickerson due up. Morrison played in 4 rehab games for Charlotte and activated today. Dylan Floro was optioned to the minor leagues to make room on the 25-man roster.
Logan hasn't DH'd a whole lot this year, just the 6th time this season, but with Brad Miller learning a new position and trying to find out if he can play first base, I think Lomo might see more action now.
Sharply hit in short right field. Shrimp makes the play, and Morrison is out of there. Well, he hit the ball sharply, but with the Padres employing the Shimp, the second baseman, was in shallow right for that one. And here's Nick Franklin. Franklin ended the first with a ground ball to first. Takes the pitch. That's strike one. Franklin getting time in right field tonight. He'd been out there in left field. In fact, had made more starts in left field than any place else. And tonight goes to the opposite side and makes the start in right. One and two.
He said that's one of his favorite things coming to the ballpark now is he never knows what position he's going to play, and he loves that. There are certain guys that want the routine. Nick likes to be surprised. Wow.
He's got the fan club going there.
8th wonder of the world. That's strong.
Yeah, and hashtag don't mess with Franklin. Ground ball to first. Perdomo finds the bag this time. They're in time. And Nick 0 for 2.
Number 10, Corey Dickerson.
So 2 ground balls, 2 outs. You're talking about Franklin. You know, look, they want him for president. He's the 8th wonder of the world. Why not? Look at that. He gets Yankee fans kicked out of Yankee Stadium.
With a hashtag, don't mess with the Franklin. I like the love for Nick Franklin.
Dickerson taking a pitch too low. 1-0. I'll
like,
tell you, he is. There's no question. Just watching him play, he is so much more comfortable and confident than he ever was before in the times we've seen him up here in a Rays uniform.
He's back on the radar now. He's back on the radar, and what they were talking about, don't mess with Franklin, is he has the power to get a fan ejected, as this fan would learn. That fan was one of the best defensive fans I've ever seen.
Well, he can catch with either hand. But if you do that in the field of play, Franklin has you removed.
His family, by the way, did not want to leave the game. Not that guy's family. The guy in the Yankee Stadium did not. His family wanted to stay. So that guy just kind of walked out on his own. Mom was there. His brother was there. His child was there. They all wanted to hang out.
And so they did. There's a shot. Dickerson back into left center field, and this is going to be caught by Jankowski. So 1, 2, 3 go the Rays. Will Myers will open the 4th. Rays lead 3-1. Geico, great moment. We go back to June 22nd, 2013. Will Myers hitting his first career home run. A grand slam, by the way, came at Yankee Stadium off the lefty CC Sabathia. He was the youngest visiting player to do that, hit a grand slam at Yankee Stadium since Ken Griffey Jr. did it in '91. Will Myers chops it down to third. And a nice turn and throw by Longoria to get him. One away in the fourth inning. Our Toyota inside look. And this one of those complicated deals where you had players moving in all directions. The Rays getting Steven Souza Jr. At the time, Rene Rivera, Jake Bauers still in the system. Bert Smith, some physical issues. Travis Ott, all in the Will Myers deal. The Washington Nationals in that deal as well. A strike to Solarte. And a couple of fellas involved in that deal talking it over.
You know, when we talked to Will before the game, he's 25 now. When he was here, he's 23. But he's a different guy in a couple of years. In that, when asked about his time here, he wasn't talking about, I can't believe they traded me. He basically said, I did some things that were a little bit immature back in the day.
Chopped to third. Longoria will handle this one and take care of Solarte. 2 ground balls to third. 2 outs. Not a good place to hit it if you're trying to get on base. You're right about that. You know, all that shows you is that, I mean, we've all been 23 at one point or another, and we probably weren't geniuses then either, you know? And the maturity, and I saw a big part of that sit down you did with him. I thought it was a great interview and a great presence shown by Will Myers there. He was always kind of fun from our point of view. He always gave us something to talk about, and he was funny and not always meant to be funny. No. But that was okay with him.
No. I just, our late night with the Rays have never been better than with him a couple of years ago.
Yep. You didn't have to write anything for him. It was all just natural.
No. Just so many funny things come to mind when thinking of Will and late night. I love when he talked about his favorite club in the bag when he golfs is his driver. But then he said, but it gets me in the most trouble because I never know where it's going to go. So in the course of the same answer, it's his least favorite and his favorite. That's just how he just said things off the cuff.
2 and 2. When it comes to golf, that made perfect sense to me. Yeah, I hated all the clubs in them. There you go. 2-2 now. And a cut in the miss. Schimpf is out on strikes for the second time. 3 up, 3 down. Rays lead 3-1. Rays baseball on Fox Sports Sun, brought to you by Jeep, the official vehicles of summer, celebrating 75 summers of living, 4x4 ever. By Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. And by your Southern Chevy dealers. Beautiful area. The Rays right back home. 10-game homestand. Bobby Wilson leads it off in the bottom of the fourth. A strike on the outside part of the plate. Luis Perdomo, 23-year-old right-hander, pitching, making the start for the Padres. 1-1. It's a ball, 2 strikes. Breaking ball had him out in front. And he doubled up on him there. Another breaking ball, and Wilson chased that one. Well, suddenly that's 6 in a row retired by Perdomo.
Command's been a little bit better. There you see that slider on the outer half, and Bobby Wilson can't reach it. 4 strikeouts first since the second inning, but all of a sudden he's finding that plate with a little more consistency than he did in the first time and a half through the lineup.
Top of the order, Logan Forsythe looks at a strike. Pretty well placed fastball right there on that outside corner of the knees. After giving up the home run to Logan in the second. Takes a strike. Breaking ball. 2. Breaking ball again, and this one is fouled out of play. Here's that home run. Quickness by Forsythe on the pitch in, and boy, he hit that ball a long way.
You can hear it, different sound when you get such a solid barrel contact on the ball, and Logan just crushed that ball to a place that not a lot of balls fly into, that Ducky's restaurant area.
With 1 out, bases empty, Forsythe battling down in the count, 2 strikes. Kevin Kiermaier on deck. Rays 6-6 all time against the Padres. How about this? This doesn't seem fair, and I don't know how they justify this in interleague play. This is the 5th trip the Padres have made here to Tropicana Field, and the Rays in all that time they've made 1 trip to San Diego.
I think you and I should be the most upset of anybody. Missing out on going to that city a few more times?
Absolutely.
That is so unfair.
Yep. That's why I wanted to mention it and just file a public protest with the powers of baseball and the schedule makers.
Do you remember the one series we were there? It was during the crazy year where there was a 12-game winning streak and a 12-game losing streak, and that was part of the winning streak.
Yeah, there's a little earthquake tremor, I recall.
Yeah, an earthquake when we were in San Diego.
Yeah, maybe that's why they don't have us back. Remember, we walked through the hotel and that big chandelier, it was a giant chandelier, started to shake.
I do remember looking out. I was still in my room looking outside the window, and there were basically waves in the pool. Something's not right.
And he did go. Well, strike after strike. So 2 gone. And here's Kevin Kiermaier. This has been the kind of performance the Rays would love to see in the top of the order. And we're starting to see quite a bit of it. That's some pressure.
Single steal, single steal. This one he beats out a ground ball that was stopped by Ryan Schimpf on the right side as Perdomo was a little late covering, and there's the second stolen base in as many at-bats and in as many innings.
Kiermaier takes a strike. You know, Kevin hitting down in the order for most of this year. His average was down compared to last year, but his on-base percentage was up already. And this move up in the order, we've continued to see that, a great increase. That turns out to be a fair ball caught by Solarte. 1-2-3, go the Rays. 3-1 ball game. Rays up 3-1. Time for the greater coverage of baseball, brought to you by T-Mobile. And for more on that, here's Todd.
All right, Dwayne, Giancarlo Stanton on the DL. Grade 3 left groin strain. They think he's going to be out the rest of the year. Mookie Betts, second 3-home run game this year. 4 for 6, 3 home runs, 8 runs batted in. First pitch swinging is Christian Bethancourt, and he sends a fly ball to center field where Kevin Kiermaier puts it away. For the first out in the 5th inning, Drew Smyly, since a 2-out walk in the 2nd inning, has now retired 9 in a row. And we talked earlier in the game about Smyly facing hitters for the first time, and tonight those hitters that have never seen Drew Smyly before tonight are 0 for 12.
Yeah, and that pitch to Bethancourt had enough little movement in, a little cutting action to negate that big swing and get the fly ball to center.
One of the 2 to reach base tonight for the Padres is Derek Norris. He walked. Takes a pitch on the outer half for a called strike, 0-1.
Hey, that little note that you just mentioned, you know, they've got a roster spot still open, right?
Marlins?
Yeah.
Yep.
A lot of conversation about somebody who might try to fill that spot.
There was, and then today the publicist for Alex Rodriguez said that was not likely to see him in a baseball uniform this year. Did not discount next season, so we'll see.
Yeah. Well, that statement was good for the present.
The present.
For the day.
0-2 fastball way up high. It's 1-2. It was a weekend full of ceremonies in Yankee Stadium. Friday night, the final game for Alex Rodriguez, we think. At least in a Yankees uniform, we know. Saturday, the celebration of the 1996 World Champions, and then yesterday, Mariano Rivera.
And what a class act Mariano Rivera is. I mean, arguably the best reliever of all time, and as great a reliever is good a man.
Yeah, there's very few statements in baseball you can make with certainty in terms of the greatest at any one thing, but that's one where you can say he was the greatest reliever of all time and no one will argue with it. There's a pitch, just misses. So for the second time he's been ahead of Derek Norris, and for the second time he has lost him to a walk. Only 2 walks issued by Drew Smyly.
Number 39, Brett Wallace.
Drew not thrilled with his head-to-head matchups with the opposing catcher. Now he'll face Brett Wallace with 1 on and 1 out. In the air, out of play, 0-1. Drew Smyly has been in a good pitch count all night long and really has been in a good rhythm. He allowed that solo home run to Alexi Ramirez. He's allowed a couple of walks to Derek Norris after being in pitchers' counts, but nobody else has reached base. There goes the runner. The pitch is inside. The throw, 1 hops Duffy, and he makes the tag a little bit late. Stolen base for Derek Norris, who's now 6 of 8 on the year in steals.
Yeah, as catchers go, that's 6 of 8, an impressive number for sure. And the element of surprise. And he did lose contact with the bag for just a moment, but that tag had already been made and withdrawn. And this is the first time, other than the Ramirez home run, if you technically want to count that as a guy in scoring position, I guess hit a home run, you're at the plate, you're in scoring position, but first time they've had a man at second base.
You know, you mentioned that tag and release as the count is 1-1 on Brett Wallace. I think that's also part of the learning curve for a guy like Matt Duffy. And here's a case where if you're a middle infielder now, you have to keep that tag on a guy all the way through the bag, and he's played mostly third base, getting a chance to learn a new position, and that's something I'm sure he'll apply as he continues as a shortstop. Because you never know. It wasn't the original intention of replay, but you never know if there's a split second when a guy comes off the bag and you keep that tag on, you may get an out.
Now take another look. And you see Norris go in there, obviously safe, but right there for a moment, no contact with the bag. If you can keep the tag on him, he's out.
Ground ball right side. Brad Miller unassisted for the second out. Derek Norris moves over to third. So 2 outs, a runner on third base.
Number 9.
And Drew Smyly will try and retire the number 9 hitter, Adam Rosales. Rosales with a fly ball to center field his first time up. Inside for a ball, 1-0. Padres in town for the first of 3. They are wrapping up a road trip which saw them go to Pittsburgh, to New York to take on the Mets, and now to St. Petersburg. Swing and a miss, 1-1. Padres and the Rays were in town at the same time in the Big Apple. San Diego losing 2 out of 3 to the Mets, and the Rays losing 2 out of 3 to the Yankees. And they are both much happier to be playing in air conditioning after that weekend.
Yeah, was it hot enough for everybody in New York? Wow.
My goodness.
And everybody we met in New York thought that automatically it was 10 or 15 degrees warmer in Florida than it was in New York, and that was just not the case.
Popped in the air right side, foul territory, should be the end of the inning. Brad Miller puts it away, and Drew Smyly through 5, 4.5 to be exact, with a 3-1 lead. See sports quite the way Colin Cowherd and Jason Whitlock do. The brains to know and the guts to say. Catch Colin and Jason for FS1's new daily sports talk show, Speak for Yourself, weeknights at 6 p.m. Eastern. Evan Longoria will stride to the plate as the leadoff hitter for the Rays here in the bottom of the 5th. Longoria has kind of picked up where he left off from New York and even Toronto the last couple of games. Single and a walk tonight. He's hitting over 500 now in his last 6 games.
If you go back to the end of May, he's consistently been on a pace well over 300. Closing the last couple days of May forward 318 coming into tonight's game.
And that season average up to 290 now. And it's harder and harder every year, it seems, for guys to stay with enough at bats through the year and hit 300. For Evan to be within 10 points of 300, here we are with 46 games to go. It's been quite a year, not only with the home runs, but the batting average as well, as he grounds one into the shift. I guess you could call that the shift because the second baseman, Ryan Schimpf, was on the shortstop side and records the out.
And the Padres are always, at least in recent times, an advocate of the shift. They're going to fluctuate between maybe the top 5 and top 10 teams and using the shift defensively.
And when they rotate, as you see here with 3 guys on the right side, when they rotate to this shift, they actually move the third baseman Solarte over to the right side and keep the shortstop, in this case Adam Rosales, as the lone guy on the left. So third baseman would be right here, and the lone guy on the left side is your shortstop. 2-0 the count to Brad Miller. Miller was hit by a pitch on an 0-2 count and struck out. We have seen Luis Perdomo lock it in lately. He's retired 9 in a row. And you hear it all the time about young pitchers. It's simply been the difference in having command and not command in this game.
And that's why the Padres are willing to let him go to the mound on a regular basis to get the innings and the experience, because they love his arm, number one, and they think there's this great potential there to be not just a starting pitcher, but right now they see him as a potential 1 and maybe a 2. And with that kind of arm and where they are, why not give him a shot?
Not often that a guy makes the transition from Class A minor league baseball to the major leagues in 1 year, but as a Rule 5 pick, that's what he's done.
And how about that? I mean, here's a guy, again, that makes it amazing, as a Rule 5 pick, and they're saying, we think this guy could be top half of the rotation starter
Next year.
Yeah.
Yeah, unreal. Unreal the progress he has made. He struggled early out of the bullpen to the point where they weren't sure if he would make it through the year as a Rule 5 acquisition, but here he is making his 13th start and 15 appearances out of the bullpen. He's given up 3 so far on 5 hits, but he hit a couple of batters in the first. Cost him a run when he hit Logan Morrison with the bases loaded. Miller with a full count. Matt Duffy waits on deck. Just missed the inside corner, ball 4. Miller draws a walk. That is the second walk issued by Perdomo. Add a couple of hit batters to the mix.
Well, the pitch was close. Norris couldn't help him enough. Wound up off the plate and down a little bit. So he tried to bring it up and angle it in. And C.B. Buckner behind the plate, not going to go for that.
So here's Matt Duffy looking for his first hit, a strikeout and a fly out to right. That pitch inside almost hits Matt, 1-0. And playing his first game here at Tropicana Field as a Ray. His last game here at Tropicana Field ended up being his final game as a Giant. Duffy 4 for 13 in that series at Yankee Stadium, including an RBI, made all the plays at shortstop, and that's really what Kevin Cash and Matt Silverman, the staff, are hoping for. He doesn't have to make the exceptional play, but if he can make all the plays at short, they take that every day.
Well, there have been some great managers in baseball who believe exactly that. Give me a guy at short who's going to make all the routine plays and maybe an exceptional play here and there. But they want all the plays that should be made to be made.
On the ground to short, this should be a double play, and it is, as they go Rosales to Schimpf to Wallace to end the 5th. So Luis Perdomo has settled in. We have a 3-1 game after 5. Summary today, early on, it was Alexei Ramirez as the DH hitting this fastball in the outer half from Drew Smiley into the seats in left field. 1-0 early San Diego. Back came the Rays. Bases loaded. Logan Morrison's first pitch he sees out off the DL. He's hit by that pitch, and then Logan Forsythe with a 2-run shot to left center. the Logans with the 3 RBIs for the Rays, and they lead at 3-1 as we head into the 6th inning. 62 pitches in 5 innings for Drew Smyly as he faces the top of the order in Travis Jankowski, who takes a pitch outside for a ball, 1-0. Padres are as intrigued with Jankowski as any of their young players who are getting a chance to play in the second half of the season. He is a center fielder with speed, already with 25 steals. Plays a very solid defensive center field. This is the area where they want to see him tested against lefties. 4 for 44 this year against left-handed pitchers. And he fouls one back against Drew. It's 1-2. Jankowski is popped to second and popped to third.
Well, they think if they can get him on base enough out of that leadoff spot, he will be an igniter at the top of their order. He had a year in the minor leagues at the A level. He stole 71 bases one year in the minor leagues. I don't care where you play. If you steal 71, you're doing something.
That's a big number in shorter seasons in the minor leagues. That is basically 1 every 2 games. That's an impressive total. Popped in the air again. This one a little deeper where an outfielder needs to make a play. It's Corey Dickerson in left, and there's 1 away. The Rays' new ballpark will be your new ballpark. Join us at ballparkreimagined.com to see our vision and share your ideas. What do you imagine? Whenever a new team comes into town that we haven't seen in a while, such as the Padres, that's a big question. What's going on with the ballpark? Alexi Ramirez takes a breaking ball for a called strike, 0-1. So you can go to ballparkreimagined.com and voice your opinion. Solo home run and also a pop-up. Only hit Drew Smyly has allowed. Padres haven't exactly been piling up the hits lately. There being no hit going into the 8th inning of yesterday's game before Alexi Ramirez singled with 1 out in the 8th. Past Smyly, but perfectly placed is the former Padre Logan Forsythe, and there's 2 outs. So only 1 hit allowed. That was the second batter of the game. A couple of walks to Derek Norris, the only blemishes since the 1st inning. Here's Wil Myers. 0 for 2 so far in his return to Tropicana Field. We saw Will in those highlights with the Rays. Remember, he used to always fling that bat early in his career. He's now got the extended swing, but he holds on to the bat kind of majestically with the left hand. This time he will toss the bat away because he hits a ball right to the right fielder, Nick Franklin. How about Drew Smyly so far? 6 innings of baseball, 1 hit allowed, a solo home run, and a couple of walks, and that's it. The lefty is dealing. 3-1 Rays. Bottom half of the 6th inning. Here's what's coming up tomorrow on our Rays Live pregame show, driven by your Gulf Coast Honda dealers. We will hear from the young lefty Blake Snell, and I'll have a chance to catch up with Edwin Jackson. Ejax is back in town again. Second time around. Last time he was in the bullpen for a different team. Now he's a starter and pitching well for the Padres. He'll be matched up with Snell tomorrow, and we will hear from one of the nicest guys in baseball, Edwin Jackson. Here's Logan Morrison. He has been hit by a pitch. That was good for an RBI and grounded out. Fouls one back, 0-1. We'll also get a chance tomorrow, Dwayne, to revisit one of the craziest no-hitters, not only in Tropicana, Rays history, how about ever in baseball?
Yeah, when Edwin Jackson came back here as a member of the Arizona Diamondbacks, had 8 walks, I think. That's right. 8 walks.
It was crazy to have bullpen action consistently during a no-hitter. But that's what happened that night. He was on the edge of being the losing pitcher a few times with the go-ahead runs on base because of all those walks as Morrison down to the count 1-2, and he somehow worked his way through 149 pitches.
Yeah, you forget that was a 1-0 game.
Right.
And what, 50? Was it
79 strikes?
Yep.
70 out of the strikes.
70. That's right. That's
70.
Right.
You can't get a total of 70 balls in any start. That's unheard of. But he did it. This one almost hits Morrison. It's 2-2. We've seen Perdomo shaky early, but very good lately. He allowed a walk that was erased by a double play last inning, and that's it since 1 out back in the 2nd inning. Just one chop to the right side. Perdomo lets it go, and Wallace makes the play himself. Perdomo tried to get to that baseball. Let's flash back, Dwayne. Here it is. Back in 2010, June 25th. Bases loaded. Play at the plate. Force out. And you have the final out coming up right here. Called 3rd strike. There it is. Comeback. Hand in the air. Base runners all night, and yet a no-hitter. Bullpen action all night. He'll relive that moment with us tomorrow. But here he is, 11 teams into his major league career. 11 teams. Always had that live fastball. 1 out, nobody on. Here's Nick Franklin. Pitches inside for a ball, 1-0. Padres as a franchise are still searching for their elusive first no-hitter. Never happened in Padres history. 1-1 the count to Franklin. One and 2 the count to Nick, and now behind in the count. He will also see a shift employed as they would play him straight up initially early on in the count, but now down 1-2. The charts say that he will hit the ball on the ground on the right side according to the Padres. Takes a pitch down low. It's 2-2. We're at 101 pitches now for Luis Perdomo. They have extended him out over 100 pitches twice this year. His last 2 starts, 105 against the Pirates in his last start. Prior to that, a season high and career high 113 against the Brewers at home. Now the count's gone full.
With the kind of start he got off to in the first couple innings, there's a part of you that thinks this game should be more than 3-1. The Rays settled for 3 in the first couple innings and have had nothing since then. Walk. That's about it.
Long run for Rosales on this foul ball, and he can't quite get there. Bethancourt had a shot, but again, we mentioned he doesn't play a lot of outfield, mostly a catcher. And that's a ball normally with that height that would be caught, but ends up falling to the turf.
Well, you see how far he has to go to try to make a play and try to then figure out where he is as he approached that bullpen area, trying to take a quick peek and then back at the ball, and he just could not do both.
That's where the shift can hurt you, as Rosales playing close to the second base bag. Had a whole lot of territory to cover as we see our first bullpen action of the night. The guy the Rays are familiar with in his time with the Jays, Brandon Morrow, is beginning to throw. That one's in the dirt. Franklin draws a one-out walk. That is walk number 3 to go along with 2 hit batsmen from the right-hander Luis Perdomo. And we'll get a visit from the pitching coach. Darren Balsley goes out to talk to his young right-hander Luis Perdomo, making his 13th start of his young career. So he has gone over 105 pitches just once in his rookie season. And he's at 104 right now, so probably near the end of his leash. See that line there, that 5 1/3 innings thus far. 5 hits, 3 earned runs, 3 walks, has struck out 5. He's also hit a couple of batters. Here's Corey Dickerson. He has taken the ball the opposite way for a double his first time up. He would score a run on the home run by Logan Forsythe. Then he hit one deep to center field, shaded towards left center. So he's used the other side of the field a little bit tonight. And Dwayne, earlier we showed that distribution of his hits this year. It seems like they've come in bunches when he's gone to left field. It hasn't been consistent over the course of the year, but there have been times when he has been able to use the whole field.
Yeah, and if he could do that even more, I think there's a feeling he'd be a lot better off, because what you wind up doing is taking that outside pitch, trying to pull it all the time, and hitting a ground ball to the right side.
Yesterday he was hoping for a sac fly and ended up with more than that.
Yeah, the ball in that whole series at Yankee Stadium was really carrying. And enough on that one to get it out.
The guy that BA called Tank Top didn't help his fielder either. There goes Nick Franklin, and he is safe on the stolen base. Throw tailed a little bit, and Franklin picks up his 6th steal of the year.
Now the Rays running early on Perdomo. Field and Culberth looking in, making sure there was no tag, and then comes the safe call.
6 of 7 now for Franklin in stolen bases. Dickerson with an 0-1 count. A couple of righties are due up after Corey Dickerson. So this is perhaps Perdomo's last hitter. Righty warming up in the bullpen. Broke his bat on that foul ball. It's 1-2. Rays lead 3-1, a run in the first on a bases loaded hit batsman, and then 2 runs in the second on Logan Forsythe's 15th home run of the year against his former team tonight. And only 1 hit allowed by Drew Smyly thus far. The Rays have that 3-1 lead, playing here in the bottom half of the 6th inning. Here's Drew looking for a 5th consecutive quality start. That is something he has not done as a member of the Rays. Last time it happened was back in the Tigers days. Inside and low, 2-2. Perdomo, who started the season as a reliever, now being stretched out 100 pitches or more for the 4th time in his last 5 starts, but he is probably near his limit at this point. In the air down the left field line, Bethancourt a long run, and he gets there just in fair territory. And there's 2 outs here in the 6th. Some uncertainty along the way on that route. The guy who mostly catches for the Padres eventually got there. And that will be the last batter that Luis Perdomo faces here. He will leave with 110 pitches, and he's trailing 3-1. Tell you about the new righty out of the bullpen for the Padres after this. Sports Sun is brought to you by Jeep, the official vehicles of summer, celebrating 75 summers of living for by forever. By Kubota. For more information, go to FloridaKubotaDealers.com. And by your Gulf Coast Honda dealers. 3-1 Rays, bottom of the 6th inning. The starter Luis Perdomo out of the game after 5 2/3, and taking over is a guy the Rays have seen before. Take a look at the line on Perdomo, responsible for the runner on second base. And now they face Brandon Morrow. Morrow pitched the game as a J, as a starter that was one of the finest against the Rays in their history, and has had tons of injuries ever since. He has dealt with injuries throughout his career, but you go back to 2010, Dwayne, he had through that one hitter against Tampa Bay with 17 strikeouts.
And there's his career, a game over 500. And you're right, he has at times, and I can't imagine he could pitch a better game than that one, but at times he's had stretches where he's been very, very good, and then staying healthy has been an issue for him.
His most recent injury was a shoulder impingement. Coming back from that injury, he's been used out of the bullpen, but he still thinks maybe after this year he can work up the stamina to become a starter again. This is a guy that has had success at the big league level. Gets Bobby Wilson a ground one towards short. Adam Rosales to his left, and that will do it for the Rays in the 6th. We are through 6 full innings, and the Rays lead 3-1 against the Padres. They Drew Smyly back for his 7th inning of work with a 2-run lead after this. Been the Drew Smyly show tonight. Alexi Ramirez tagged him early, second batter of the game on that 1-1 pitch, a home run to left. But since then, the lefty has been dominant. Just a couple of walks, no other hits allowed in this game. Of the 6 guys in the lineup that have never seen Drew Smyly before, they are combined 0 for 14 tonight with 3 strikeouts. Here for the 7th and the rest of the way, once again, Dwayne Stats.
Thank you very much, Todd. See 73 pitches for him through 6. He's retired 13 of the last 14 to face him, and the first pitch to Solarte, opening the 7th upstairs. No ball, no strikes. There's a strike. To start him on that first pitch with a breaking ball, could not get it to break. Came back with the cutter for a strike. And again, a pitch wide, went back to that breaking ball. When he was struggling, those secondary pitches were at issue for him. There's a strike, 2-2. And with command of those pitches, he's run off a nice stretch here. The last 4 games, 2-0 with a 2.52 ERA. Solarte fouls the fastball back, 2-2. Lifted up the right side, chased by Brad Miller, foul ball, long run. Cannot get there. Just a little short. Trying to get down there, make an over the shoulder back to the infield catch. Could not catch up.
There's another example, though, where a guy who shifts from shortstop to first base, there's not a lot of first basemen that even get that close to the baseball.
That's right. That's right. That's one of the reasons the Rays are very optimistic about his ability to play over there. Just a little bit of that one. And Solarte still alive up there, leading off the 7th. Fly ball into left. Dickerson right in line to make the catch. Took a few extra pitches, but the leadoff man disposed of by Smyly, getting Solarte on the fly ball. Now Ryan Schimpf, the left-handed hitting second baseman, who twice has struck out swinging. Start Started him in the second inning, striking him out with a fastball up, struck him out swinging in the fourth. And the pitch close, a little bit low, says C.B. Buckner. Foul right back.
Saw Jim Hickey there a moment ago. A lot of extra video work for him today. I mean, normally you see a National League team, you at least know some of the guys. They played in the American League a little bit, and that's still the case with some of these hitters. But there are so many rookies on this team that he's learning these guys in a hurry to get ready for this series and imparting that knowledge on his staff.
2-1. Yeah, the leading up to the first game of a series, that's the heavy workload. And then you observe things in that first game, second game, and add. But it's that first day that requires a lot of extra homework.
Saw that notebook, a lot of highlights, a lot of notes. He's got a card in front of him. A lot going on today getting ready for this Padres series. Look at that. It's like a homework assignment.
Swing and a miss. He strikes him out with a fastball. Third time he has gotten Schimpf on strikes.
Drew has not had a big strikeout night, only 4. But Schimpf is the one guy, he has 3, as you said, and that one underneath the fastball. And Drew continues to be very efficient in this game.
Yeah, he got Will Myers in the first on a fastball, and then Schimpf 3 times. 2 gone here in the 7th. Bethancourt sends a high fly ball deep to center and right back in front of the wall. Kiermaier makes the catch. Got back there and started to feel for the wall. 7th inning stretch, 3-1 Rays. Here we go on to the bottom of the 7th inning at Tropicana Field tonight. Rays beginning this 3-game series and a 10-game homestand. The Padres in first. The Padres followed by the Texas Rangers and the Boston Red Sox. And the Rays lead tonight 3-1. They scored a run in the first and got 2 in the second on a home run by Logan Forsythe, who opens the bottom of the 7th. First pitch from Brandon Morrow is in there for a strike. Some estimates of the home run for Logan Forsythe at 440 feet on the ball he hit back in the second inning, which would be the longest of his career. Down on the count right now, 0-2. Brad Boxberger up in the bullpen for the Rays. The chop to short. Rosales charges and throws right over the top. And Forsythe is out of there. Also, that home run for Logan, 15th of the year and the 50th of his major league career. And at the moment, that's the difference in this game. The 2-run blast by Logan Forsythe back in the second. Now Kevin Kiermaier, 2 out of 3. Couple of base hits and 2 stolen bases. He's 12 of 14 now in steals. Pitch is wide. We've had no hits in this game since the base hit by Kiermaier in the second inning. Certainly not the way this game started. 2-0. The teams are combined 0 for 27 since then.
That's a no-hitter.
Well, that's what we've seen since Kiermaier's single. Rays had 5 hits after 2, have 5 hits right now. 3-0 the count. Brandon Morrow barking at himself out there for missing on the last couple of pitches. Veteran right-hander. And there's ball 4. A walk of Kiermaier in front of Longoria. Don't miss the perfect concert for the whole family when Kids Bop Kids perform after the Rays Rangers game Sunday right here at Tropicana Field. Will be the life of the party here as kids 14 and under get a Raymond and DJ Kitty double bobblehead presented by Suncoast Credit Union. Call 888-FAN-RAYS or visit RaysBaseball.com. Rays up. It'll be Sunday against the Texas Rangers. 7 Longoria. Pitch is wide. Lifted up the right side. This is Will Myers in the foul territory down near the bullpen. And he turns quickly and fires that ball back in, not taking anything for granted with Kiermaier on first base. So he's following some of his own advice right there.
Yeah, they were teammates together in Will's last year here in 2014, and there was no chance Kiermaier was tagging, but just in case, Will wanted to make sure he was alert.
Brad Miller with Kiermaier over at first. Miller has been hit by a pitch and has walked. Only 2 home runs for Brad Miller. Kiermaier back in. Ground ball, third, knocked down. The quick recovery and the throw by Rosales is in time to get Brad Miller. Adam Rosales, the lone man on the left side, made a nice play there. We go to the 8th, 3-1 Rays. Boxberger, he's going to take over on the mound with this game moving into the 8th inning. Drew Smyly was very good tonight for the Rays. Gave up that home run in the first, and after that, Todd, he was outstanding.
He really was. I mean, only 2 walks allowed the rest of the way. No more base hits. First inning hit, the home run by Ramirez, and that is it. We mentioned guys who are facing him for the first time could struggle tonight, and they ended up going 0 for 17 against him with 4 strikeouts. Smyly with a really good pitch count going into this inning, but Kevin Cash decided that was enough. They have not used him for more than 100 pitches in any of his last 6 starts.
He made 83 pitches his last time, 95 the time before that, 86 this time. And now Brad Boxberger makes his 7th appearance. Pitch is a strike. Wave and a miss by Derek Norris. 0-2. Well, the former Padre, Brad Boxberger, out there. Action in the San Diego bullpen. Campos, the righty, and Hand, the lefty. Brad Hand and Leonel Campos working down there in the bullpen. Over the screen, out of play. Two and two. Wallace on deck. That one up and in and off the mid of Wilson. Norris leaning back, and we have a full count. Norris has walked twice. And look at this. He's seen a lot of pitches. 3-2 in the second and walked. 3-2 in the 5th and walked. He's 3-2 here in the 8th. That after Boxberger got ahead of him. Ground ball up the middle, but right there backhanding Forsythe. Oh, what a play. Shaded up that way anyway. Still a difficult play on the backhand. and then to throw across his body against his momentum. And a nice play indeed by Logan Forsythe.
Just to pick this ball clean on the short hop is tough enough, especially when, watch that, right off the short hop, and you're moving as quickly as he has and having to throw against your momentum. And nice footwork by Miller, too, to shift off the bag and get to the outfield side of the bag with that throw going that way. So really solid play by that guy.
Wallace takes the pitch for a strike. Oh, what a big out that is, too. You know, you get ahead of the hitter in the count, then you go full, and then he gets a ball up the middle like that, and a little shade that way by Forsythe, but an outstanding defensive play by the Rays second baseman. 1-1 the count to Brett Wallace. Lifts a fly ball into right. And out in front of that one. Franklin is there and he makes the catch. 2 gone. Can't catch the Rays on TV. You can stream them live on your mobile device with the all-new Fox Sports Go app. Download the app and take Fox Sports Sun and Rays baseball with you wherever you go. Now the shortstop, Adam Rosales. He made a fine play to end the 7th inning on the ball hit by Brad Miller. He's got a fly ball to center and is fouled out to the first baseman, Brad Miller. A little bit low. Now 3-0. Boxberger's last appearance came on the 8th. And there's ball 4. He walks Rosales on 4 pitches. Well, Rosales now the base runner in a 2-run game. It's 3-1. We go back to the top of the order and Travis Jankowski. Jankowski started this game hitting .254. And he lays off ball 1. He's popped to second, fouled to third, hit a fly ball to left. His last time, all of that against the lefty Smiley. So he faces a right-handed pitcher for the first time tonight. Wilson spends a little time on the mound. Runner breaks. The pitch is a strike. Throw down will not be in time. Rosales picks up his 3rd stolen base of the year in 3 attempts. Here's the jump.
Really good jump, and then it was a changeup to boot, and Rosales gets in rather easily.
Now 2-1. Alex Colomé up in the Rays bullpen.
I think the dugout is seeing the same things the viewers are probably seeing, is that Boxberger's having trouble finding the mitt where Wilson's setting up. They don't want to get this out of hand here.
And he misses down again. It's 3-1. Well, he walked Rosales on 4 straight pitches and is behind 3-1 here on Jankowski. And Alexi Ramirez is on deck. Now back. 3-2. Came in with a fastball and was up, out over the plate.
Interesting pitch coming up here. You don't have a guy with a lot of power, so even though he's a tying run, you probably want to challenge him with a fastball here if you could throw it for a strike. But the changeup is a big strikeout pitch for Boxberger.
And he misses. I'll tell you, he has not had a good feel for that changeup. That's been problematic for him, and he walks Jankowski on one. So back-to-back walks. You know, we saw one or two deliveries where he really slowed everything down, and it seems he's just been inconsistent with his release point and his delivery of that changeup.
Well, he's been on a pretty good run since coming back from the DL the second time, but as you mentioned, hadn't pitched in a while and just doesn't seem to be mechanically as sound tonight, and missed with a lot of his pitches the last two hitters. So ideally, the Rays would not like to have Alex Colomé in an up-down where he pitches the eighth, sits, and comes back for the ninth, but they may not have an option. I would think this will be Boxberger's last hitter.
Well, there's Alex Ramirez, and he displayed that he still has some pop in that bat with the first inning home run when he connected off Smiley. Now it's Brad Boxberger. 2 men on, 2 men out. And the pitch is a strike.
Dropped his first slider in there.
How about that?
Had been struggling with the fastball, been struggling with the changeup. Go to the slider.
Now 1-1.
Not biting at that changeup are the Padres in this inning.
There's a strike on the fastball. So the strikes have come on the slider and the fastball.
Somebody look at Evan.
Upstairs. 2-2.
Left side of the infield, just trying to figure out whether they should still play. The no doubles on the line.
That's foul the other way. So it's still a 2-2 count. And a ground ball right to Logan Forsythe to retire the side. So he got the ground ball he needed. Bottom of the eighth coming. 3-1 Rays.
In the bottom of the 8th with the Rays leading 3-1 over the Padres on Fox Sports Sun. Stay tuned immediately following the game. Myself and Doug Wechter will be hosting Rays Live, the postgame, brought to you by Checkers. We'll hear from Drew Smyly on his 5th straight quality start this season. It's also the longest streak of quality starts in his career. Plus, we'll hear from Kevin Cash, the manager, on what we are hoping will be a Rays win. Right now, they're up 3-1. We send it back up to the booth. Here's Dwayne and TK.
All right, Rich, thank you very much. Rays coming in to hit in the bottom of the 8th inning. These two teams 0 for 32 since the last hit in this game. So here's Matt Duffy to face Leonel Campos. Pitcher number 3 for the Padres. His first pitch is down.
Mostly a fastball slider guy is Campos, especially to right-hand hitters. He'll mix in a changeup. Fastball rides around 93 normally.
1-1 to count. Morrow worked an inning and a third. Gave up a walk. That was it. Duffy leading off here against Campos. Campos worked 2 innings yesterday in New York against the Mets. Look out, a shot foul just over the dugout and into the stands. Two and two now. Ground ball, deep short, beneath the glove of Rosales and into left field. It's going to be a base hit for Duffy. Rosales trying to get over there to backhand it, could not get the glove down in time.
All infielders have a timing mechanism in their head where they know how quick they have to be, and Rosales tried to be quick to that ball. We've seen him with that strong arm being able to throw out a runner, even though we thought it would be a bang-bang play earlier. He does have a strong right arm, but that time he tried to cut it off, and in doing so, the ball went into the outfield.
Leadoff base hit is Logan Morrison. Pitches away. Morrison back off the DL today and in the lineup as the designated hitter.
Glad that was ruled a hit. We haven't seen one in a while.
Yeah, 0 for 34.
Jeez.
A recalculation of when the last hit occurred. Kiermaier had the base hit in the 2nd inning, and then looking at both lineups, it was 0 for 34 between Kiermaier's infield hit in the 2nd and the base hit by Duffy.
And when you think about it, Kiermaier's was a grounder on the right side. Perdomo didn't really cover. That was a ground ball that just snuck its way through. It's not like there's been many hard hit baseballs in this game since the Forsythe home run.
It's 2-1. Yeah, we went from one blast like that. They say the longest home run in his career, estimating it at 440, to nothing.
Nothing.
Just a couple little infield. There's an infield hit. A guy beat him out. This one just by the shortstop. A couple of walks. Runner breaks. The pitch shot into right. That ball's going to go all the way to the wall. Duffy, who was breaking, will hit third. Waved home by Montoyo, and he scored standing up. The Rays get their 4th run of the night. It's 4-1. Morrison doubles into right to chase home Matt Duffy. 2nd RBI of the game for Morrison.
Welcome back from the DL, Logan Morrison. An RBI in the first inning. Was hit by a pitch with the bases full, and now a ball roped to the right field. And with Duffy on the move, that gave Charlie Montoyo an opportunity to send him home. There you see Duffy picked up the ball right away, and now he picks up his third base coach and says, I'm going all the way. Scores easily.
Morrison's 11th double of the year. And here's Dick Franklin. He bunts third base side. Duarte takes the out at first. So Morrison moves to third on the sacrifice bunt. Brett Wallace back to take the throw. So the Rays bunt the runner over to third. They picked up one run here in the 8th, and now they have a chance to pick up another one. They're going to force the Padres to draw the infield in. Or they'll walk Dickerson, and they're going to walk him intentionally.
Wow. How about that? Stay alive, Derek Norris.
We think they're going to walk him intentionally.
Logan Morrison better stay alive at third. You got a chance to score possibly on this intentional walk. This pitch goes about 54 feet on an intentional walk. First offering. See Bobby Wilson on deck. They're thinking maybe you get a double play possibility here.
Well, it's a 4-1 ball game, and there's ball 4 to Dickerson on the intentional walk. Well, Bobby Wilson will be the hitter, and the Padres will be looking for a ground ball here, trying to get out of the 8th.
Bobby Wilson will probably also determine who pitches the 9th inning for the Rays. If it's 3 runs or less, probably be Alex Colomé for the save. If Wilson gets the run home, it'll probably be Kevin Jepson, as they have a couple of righties warming up here with the Rays leading 4-1.
Well, the Rays and the Padres are back at it again tomorrow. We'll be with you at 6:30, and Blake Snell will make the start against Edwin Jackson. It's an interesting pairing right there, and I tell you, we continue to be impressed by the young Rays lefty. Blake Snell had a tough outing his last time, but I'll tell you, he's been fun to watch. And when you project what could be in his future, it's pretty rosy.
I'm really looking forward to seeing how he bounces back after that start in Toronto, just because it was his worst start of his young career, and I think he is going to be hyper-focused tomorrow.
I do too. I think he'll be great. Mikey Mahtook running at first, the pinch runner for Dickerson. Bobby Wilson showing bunt right there.
It's the old first and third bunt play.
Yeah, how about that?
Rays haven't tried it too often this year.
Well, as we've always said, if you can get that bunt down, it's tough to defend if you do it properly. I guess every play is tough to defend if you do it properly, but this has been one that we've seen the Rays in years past utilize, and they're thinking of trying to stay away from a ground ball double play here. The pitch is down. They had Wallace breaking down the line from first.
They had it on, then they took it off. Now hitters count 2-0. San Diego not sure what to do defensively.
And he takes ball 3. So it's 3-0. And here's something else. You know, you get the opposing pitcher and the defense to thinking a little bit about what you're doing or not doing, as the case may be. Suddenly it's a 3-0 count with Forsythe on deck. And a strike call right there. 3-1. Runner goes, and the pitch is foul out of play. So the Rays and Montook breaking on that pitch. So the Rays doing everything they can to stay out of that double play.
Exactly. They know that Bobby's not a speedster, and they know a ground ball can easily be turned into a double play, so they're trying to move Montook and see if they can steal a run here.
Hand throwing in the bullpen, the lefty. A step back by Campos. Four-1 ball game, first and third. 1 out, full count. Runner goes, ball 4. The bases are going to be loaded. And you know, that might not seem like much, but by the Rays putting that bunt play on, taking it off, putting it on, you engage this team mentally as well as just physically trying to execute there. Next thing you know, you draw the walk and you got the bases loaded.
Veteran at bat too by Bobby Wilson. With the first third bunt play on, you don't have to bunt. It's not a suicide squeeze. He took the first one for a ball even though the play was on. And right there, runner in motion. Sometimes hitters get a little jittery seeing a runner in motion, thinking you have to swing again. Took a pitch outside the zone, and now the Rays have the bases loaded with the walk. And
you get Logan Forsythe to the plate, who homered back in the second inning of this game. That's strike 1. Logan jumped on the 1-0 fastball in, and boy, did he give it a ride.
It's a pretty sound and a great result. Forsythe with great contact against Perdomo. That was a bomb to left center.
Fly ball, left center field. Bethancourt will make the catch. Tag at third. Morrison heads to the plate and he scores. And the Rays get that extra run. Logan Morrison scores from third as Logan Forsythe drives him in on the fly ball. It's 5-1.
We saw a pretty solid arm there from Bethancourt. He mentioned he's normally a catcher, and he threw that ball like it was a long throw to second base on a guy trying to steal. Had he not double pumped Dwayne, that might have been a play at the plate. But when he double clutched it, he pretty much cost himself a chance. Now you watch this guy. I mean, right now he makes the catch, and he's like, all right, where do I go? Where do I go? I'm going to go home. If he doesn't hesitate and throws it home immediately, you never know. That was a pretty solid throw.
Well, it's a 2-run 8th. And now it's Kevin Kiermaier. Strike 1, Kiermaier. Over that pitch. So Duffy, who opened with a base hit, has scored. Morrison, who drove him in with a double, has scored. Montook's on second. Wilson's on first. 1-1. Kevin Jepson alone in the bullpen right now. Rays with a 5-1 lead. this one skipping away. Over to third goes Montook, and down to second base Wilson. The slider in the dirt. Now the Rays have both men in scoring position, moving up on the wild pitch.
Well, this has been an inconsistent inning for Leonel Campos. An intentional walk followed by another walk, and now ball in the dirt that gets away from Norris. Just trying to get through one more batter, but he has struggled in the eighth.
Three and one. Shot back into deep right center. That baby's gone. Blast off the bat of Kiermaier for a 3-run home run. Kiermaier's 7th home run. And the Rays turn it into a 5-run inning. Kiermaier crosses the plate. It's 8-1 Tampa Bay.
Down to the count, 3-1. Kiermaier looking for a fastball to drive, and he gets one up in the zone. And this was a no-doubter line drive to right field. Kiermaier putting an exclamation point on this 8th inning for the Rays.
Pitch up and in a bit to Evan Longoria. So the Rays with 8 runs. 5 of those coming in the 8th. 8 runs, 8 hits.
How about the 3-run home run weapon for the Rays the last couple of games?
I'll tell you, that's a great strategy, the 3-run home run.
Couple yesterday in that 12-run outburst against the Yankees, one tonight. Evan had a 3-run double.
2 now. The home run by Longoria. Hit one in the Kansas City series on the 3rd of this month. And now number 7 tonight. Longoria, chopper to the left side. Throw is there in time, and the Rays are out in the 8th. A big blast by Kevin Kiermaier after the Rays had put up 2. It's a 5-run inning and an 8-1 lead. 6-1 ball game. Kevin Kiermaier's 3-run blast, capping a 5-run 8th. Well, the RBI distribution, as you take a look at Mikey Montook out in left, taking over out there after pinch running. Kevin Jepson is on the mound facing Wil Myers, and he comes out swinging, fouling the first pitch back. Well, the Padres have been limited to 1 hit. That was the second hitter of the game. Home run by Alexi Ramirez. Smiley worked 7 innings. Boxberger 1, and now Jepson. 0-2. Throws it into the dirt. And that's been the situation with that curveball for Jepson. Still trying to get the proper feel for that pitch. We've seen him throw some into the dirt in front of the plate, and then he's tried to make the adjustment. They've been up, and occasionally he's had it just right.
He's feeling better about his stuff and his results since becoming a Ray, but that, you're right, that has been the inconsistency this year.
Fastball foul back.
He just has a comfort zone. He feels like he belongs in that clubhouse, and I think you guys were talking about veteran presence yesterday on the broadcast. Here's a guy that really brings it.
I think you're absolutely right about that. He is the guy who I have to believe the Rays are really hoping that he continues to have the success he's had with the ground ball base hit to center. Oh, overrun by Kiermaier. Now Myers going to try to go to second, and he's going to be in there. Wow, that's going to be a base hit for Wil Myers and an error charge to Kevin Kiermaier. Something that you certainly don't see every day. 3rd error of the year charged to Kiermaier.
Breaking ball, Myers grounds it not overly sharply, but at least through the right hole in between short and second. And then you see Kevin Kiermaier thinking that Wil Myers was going to be going to second, at least challenge him. And Kevin was trying to rush and ended up not making the play cleanly. Not sure what's going on, but Andy Green wants a discussion with the umpires here.
Well, Myers singled up the middle. And let's see on the slide there at second. The Rays are challenging it, and I think they've got a case.
We talked about this earlier with Matt Duffy not keeping his glove on the runner. But this could be turned from an error on Kevin Kiermaier to an outfield assist, based on replay and Wil Myers' right hand coming off the bag. And there's the
exactly
smile.
Right.
There's the smile.
Kiermaier says you never know. I might get an assist out of this, and it would certainly appear. He's out at second base, so forget the error. Give him an assist.
Well, again, one of those plays that works for you if you keep the ball on the runner. In this case, Logan Forsythe doing a nice job keeping the ball on the arm of Wil Myers, and the transfer from the hand to the leg, he was off the bag.
So that's an assist for Kiermaier. So the Rays get it overturned. 1 gone now in the 9th inning. Solarte taking a pitch down and in. I give the Rays credit right there. I mean, if you're an infielder these days, you have to keep the glove on the runners.
No doubt. We saw that earlier where The runner would have been out at second had Duffy kept the tag on when Norris stole second in the 5th inning, and that time Forsythe kept the glove on him, and it resulted in an out.
A high shot to right field by Solarte, and that one is going to get out of here. He gave that baby a ride, and it's 8-2 with his 13th home run of the year.
That was very well struck. That ball almost got to the back wall in right field. Pretty much the walkway down the line in right. As he hit that one a long way. 2-0 pitch. Jepson trying to come in with a strike, and Solarte was ready for it.
Yeah, good spot for a left-handed hitter to lift it. And lift it he did. So a run home, both runs for the Padres in this game on home runs. Ryan Schimpf cut and a miss for a strike. No ball and a strike. It's been an interesting game here in terms of the quick start, and then nothing down the middle, and 0 for 34 by both teams. And the Rays put up 5 in the bottom of the 8th. Home run here in the 9th by the Padres. The Rays trying to get the last 2 outs. Home run by Kiermaier, a couple of steals, 3 hits and a walk for Kiermaier, and an assist. I mean, you're having a good night when you can turn an error into an assist, and that's what happened to Kiermaier.
Both teams mirrored each other. Fast starts offensively, plateau for a while. For the Rays, innings 3 through 7. For the Padres, innings 2 through 8. And now all of a sudden, last at bats, find the offense again.
Swing and a miss. Schimpf out of there on strikes for the 4th time. 2 gone now in the 9th.
Here's Jepson coming back after the home run and challenging with a fastball and getting a swing and a miss. The former Olympic bronze medalist Kevin Jepson, back in 2008 in Beijing, said he's only 27 away from catching Michael Phelps.
Christian Bethancourt takes a strike.
There's a good chance he won't get there.
Yeah, there are a lot of people not going to get there.
He was joking about that in the clubhouse. Like, only 27 away.
Did he go? No, says Jim Reynolds. Pretty close. He held up. Swing and a roller foul. Sets the count at 1-2. Bethancourt checking on the breaking ball and fouling it. Upstairs, it's 2-2 now.
Rays just a strike away from winning their 4th consecutive game during Drew Smyly's starts. It's been fun to watch Smyly and Odorizzi turn things on here in the second half.
Oh, look out. It's shot back. Deflecting off Jepson. Picked up by Forsythe, who throws him out. And Jepson picks himself up and appears to be all right, but boy, that was frightening for a moment. May have gotten him on the hand, and on that 1-4-3, the game ends, and the Rays take the first game of this series 8-2. You see Jepson hit the deck there on the mound.
Let's watch the pitching hand. He tries to get the pitching hand out of the way. It went off the fingers of the right pitching hand, kind of bent them back a little. But Jepson appears to be okay. He's a tough guy out there, just making sure all the fingernails are still on there.
Close call, but he appears to be okay. And that's great news. The other good news, the Rays are winners 8-2 for the Rays. 8 runs, 8 hits, no errors, 7 left. For San Diego, 2 runs, 3 hits, no errors with 4 men left. Drew Smyly's going to get the win. He's 5-11. Perdomo, the loser, 5-7. Took 2 hours and 50 minutes to play this game before 10,417. So Smyly 3-0 in his last 5 starts after going 2-11 in the first 18, and a winner tonight in this 8-2 decision. Well, a lot of big nights as it turned out for the Rays offensively. Kevin Kiermaier, one of those guys. Let's go to the field now. Rich standing by with Kevin Kiermaier.
All right, Dwayne, a dirty uniform for Kevin Kiermaier usually means good news. An interesting night, to say the least, especially later in the game. First off, take us through that 3-run blast in the 8th.
You know, I knew Campos, he has just pretty much fastball and slider, and I was just trying to see a pitch up and worked myself into a hitter's count 3-1 and was just hoping something for up in middle of the plate, and I got it and I didn't miss it. So finally it feels good to put some good swings on some balls again, and you know, quality night for me at the plate tonight. Felt really good, taking some steps forward, and I'll take these as many as I can get.
Last 6 games, you're on a 6-game hitting streak, hitting .384 in that time. Moving up to that second spot, I know it's something you've looked forward to, and now you're starting to excel. What's been the big difference for you?
Well, I'm not changing my approach or anything like that. It's just one of those things where I want to try to create havoc any way I can. And I'm trying to get on base for the big guys behind me to drive me in. And it's a joy hitting behind Logan Forsythe. And it seems like he gets on base every time he's up there. And, you know, I'm going to get a lot of heaters when I'm up there, which I like. And like I said, I'm happy they have confidence in me to put me up there and kind of give you a taste for what we're going to do next year, but it's just to prepare me for that. And I'm glad they put me there and, you know, have the confidence, so I'm happy.
Couple of singles, couple of steals your first 2 times up, but the most interesting play came there in center field. Not very often you get an error changed to an outfield assist. What happened there?
Well, I was Shane Will towards right center, and he hit that ball right in between me and Mikey over in the left center gap, and I know he runs well, and you know, I did that backhand play, and I work on that all the time in BP. It didn't go in my glove, and I just wanted to get it in there as quick as I could, and thankfully Logan used his baseball instincts and kept the tag on him, and you know, it erased an error away from me. And I don't mind making errors, but right there, that just shows you what happens when, as a base runner, you put the pressure on the defense, and it's hard for us to make that play. And you know, I want to try to make that play, but not how I quite drew it up, but it ended up working out.
Call it a 3-2-1 game for Kevin Kiermaier. 3 hits, 2 steals, an outfield assist, and a dirty uniform. That's a Rays win. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, guys, back up to you.
Rays winners here over the San Diego Padres to open the homestand. On the upswing at 8-2 final here as the Rays knock off San Diego. Same 2 teams tomorrow. We'll be with you at 6:30 on Fox Sports Sun. Blake Snell against Edwin Jackson. For Todd Callis and Rich Hollenberg and the rest of our crew, Dwayne Stats. Hope you've enjoyed the telecast. Great to have you with us. Rays Live, the postgame next.